Greetings to all who see this. My name is Roger Norfolk. I'm the 2nd District Commander of the American Legion of Iowa. One of my posts had asked me to do a Memorial Day message for their ceremony. But the COVID-19 is going to keep us from being able to assemble. So I'm recording this message specifically for them, but anyone who can find any use of this is welcome to it. Memorial Day is not a day for celebration. We're supposed to show respect and gratitude for our heroes who gave the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. Happy Memorial Day is not an appropriate greeting, as more than 1.1 million men and women have died in wartime throughout the span of our nation's history. General George S. Patton said, "It is foolish and wrong to mourn the men who died. Rather, we should thank God such men lived." Pausing to remember and honor America's fallen service members is a practice dating back more than 100 years, since the days of the Civil War. Humble Americans have gathered together on Memorial Day to remember and pay tribute to all who have fought and selflessly surrendered the precious gift of life so that other people could live free. Today, we are here to pay homage to America's finest men and women who, in President Lincoln's words, gave the last full measure of devotion. So today, with one heart, Americans pause to embrace our brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, mothers and fathers who answered their nation's call to serve and who now remain forever only in our hearts. So let's talk about heroes. I visited the grave of Sergeant James Elson in the Shellsburg, Iowa cemetery, which is very near to where I am. Sergeant Elson was a Civil War Congressional Medal of Honor recipient. He served in Company C, 9th Iowa Infantry. His award states, "For extraordinary heroism for action at Vicksburg, Mississippi on May 22, 1863. Sergeant Elson carried the colors in advance of his regiment, where he was shot and wounded while attempting to plant the colors on the Confederate defensive line. He was once again wounded in battle near Atlanta and was later discharged from active duty as a first lieutenant. After the war, he returned to his hometown of Shellsburg and was appointed postmaster. He was elected sheriff of Benton County in 1893 and served until his death on March 26, 1894. There's no doubt he was a brave and valiant man. We reflect on others who have given much and lived. Corporal William Amos Floyd Norfolk, my father, survived the Bataan Death March. He returned to lead a full and happy life. He loved his children and his grandchildren. He loved to work. He loved the Legion and was in many leadership positions in it and the VFW. He loved to eat after being starved nearly to death by the prison conditions. He was happy most of his life until near the end when dementia set in, and then in his mind, he was back in the prisoner of war camps. That just really broke my heart. He was my hero. He only participated in one battle, and that was as the Japanese overran Corregidor. He received 2 Bronze Stars for his service and 2 Purple Hearts for his injuries. He was a prisoner of the Japanese for 3.5 years, ending up at Hoten Prisoner of War Camp in Mukden, Manchuria. The VFW post in Palmyra is named the Norfolk Smith Post, partially in his honor. However, Memorial Day is not for us to honor those who served and survived. Today, we remember those who gave all in service. We remember a proud Missourian, Philip Baldwin, an Air Force captain and weapons systems officer on an F-111 bomber, a proud father of 2 girls and very much in love with his wife, Janet. He and Janet worked hard to put each other through college, and I had the honor to commission him into the Air Force. Through the years, we stayed in touch, and our friendship continued to grow. During an assignment in Lakenheath, England, as his bomber wing was conducting training, his airplane crashed upside down into Scotland. You only get so many true brothers, and I lost one that day. We reflect on those who never returned, like fellow Iowan George Hymandahl, Air Force Sergeant, whose remains are still undiscovered since 1945, flying from Saipan as part of the 873rd Bomber Squadron. So Memorial Day is about those who have died for our freedoms. It isn't a celebration of life, it's a thanksgiving for their service. We remember those who have given their lives in war. As we celebrate today, there's nothing unpatriotic about an auto race, family picnics, placing flowers on family members' graves. Just remember what the true meaning is of Memorial Day. We also cannot forget those who sent their loved ones off to war and they didn't return. The price they paid is also very high. By the end of the Civil War in 1865, 76,534 Iowegians had served in the Union Army. In relation to its population, Iowa sent more soldiers to the Civil War than any other state. Of those, 13,169 died. I have had the honor to visit the battlefield at Gettysburg, the nation's bloodiest battle, lasting 3 days, with 51,112 casualties, and the battlefield at Antietam, the bloodiest single day in our history, with 26,134 casualties. I really have trouble wrapping my mind around the magnitude of loss of these two battles. The pictures showing the battlefields just littered with bodies. I just have trouble comprehending it all. One of the first U.S. soldiers killed in combat in World War I was an Iowan, Merle Hay from Glidden. News of his death shocked the state, and suddenly he became a hero. After the war, a monument was erected in the Glidden Cemetery, and a street in Des Moines was named in his honor. The first U.S. woman to die of injuries in a combat zone also was an Iowan. She was Marion Crandall, formerly a French teacher at St. Catherine's School in Davenport. She died while serving in a canteen when an artillery shell exploded nearby. So what does that mean to us here today? Well, only you can tell that. Only you can determine what you think, how you feel, and what's central in your heart. As for me, I watched the movie Saving Private Ryan, and the loss the actors portray of the storming of the beach makes me weep. I was a tanker, and I watched the movie Fury, and the tank battles are pretty intense. The loss of life on both sides, very high. I watched the movie Glory, and I see the actors charge into battle, into withering fire. And I wonder if I have that kind of courage. As one who spent 20 years in uniform on active duty, I can only wonder, as the dear Lord didn't see battle as a part of my path. I can walk along and remember those who have gone in my place. I can see the sky and birds and grass and not worry about an enemy attack on my neighborhood. I can go about my daily life without fear of armed enemies in our midst. What a glorious country we live in, and what a debt we owe to those who bought freedoms with their lives. And whenever I'm in a veteran cemetery, I walk along with reverence, in silence, and remember those who have given their all. John Stuart Mill said, "A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature and has no chance of being free unless made and kept so by the exertions of better men than himself." Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, "Those who have long enjoyed such privileges as we enjoy forget in time that men have died to win those freedoms." We must find a way to pass that along to the future generations. That freedom isn't free, that many have paid the price. We must each find our ways to do that. In 2000, Congress passed a new law to help emphasize the real meaning of Memorial Day. The National Moment of Remembrance Act encourages all Americans to pause for a full minute at 3 p.m. on Memorial Day and remember the fallen. Please remember to join in that observance. I thank you for your kind attention. May God bless America.